Zaczynamy.
Marta, I'm happy we could meet. Our conversation will pertain to social inclusion of children and their parents, children with mental health issues. First of all, I would like to ask you to tell us about your work. What type of psychological problems you come across among children and their parents? I'm a psychologist and a psychotherapist. I work in integrational stream. I work in mental health clinic and in the addiction and co-addiction treatment clinic. Most often I come across children and families because treatment must be systematic and include all family. Issues of eating disorders such as bulimia and anorexia, but also with mental disorders and behavioral disorders pertaining to addiction to psychoactive substances. Children and youth most often take cannabinol and amphetamine, sometimes energy drinks and uppers.
Ale też amfetamina, tudzież dopalacze.
I also come across affective disorders to do with emotional issues, including depression. These include autoaggressive behaviors, often in connection with depression. And this include cutting, body mutilation, and also such autoaggressive patterns like taking drugs and psychoactive substances.
W postaci nacinania, cięcia, czy podejmowania właśnie takich zachowań problemowych jak eksperymentowanie czy zażywanie substancji psychoaktywnych.
These are the main areas that I come across in the mental health clinic.
W poradni zdrowia psychicznego do czynienia.
Marta, could you tell us about the general social education in this area in society? I mean, how does social education look like in this area, the area of child and family with mental issues?
Problemami psychicznymi, jak wygląda społeczna edukacja w tym zakresie?
You mean social education in the area of mental health and mental illness? Okay, I think it is getting better and better. I have a positive feeling about progress in this area, although we still have a long way to go. I think the positive change is mainly due to social campaigns, particularly when social, recognizable, known people, celebrities, who break some social taboos, for example, start talking about depression and the social face of depression. This helps demythologize mental illness and, thanks to their authority and social recognition, brings the taboo to forefront of social discussion. It gives it a social face and helps to overcome the stereotypization of mental illness.
W niektórych obszarach autorytetów, czyli w ten sposób jest to pewien element odmrażania czy wychodzenia za ten aspekt stereotypizacji tych chorób psychicznych. Mamy, prawda,
We have International Day for the Fight with Depression and an International Day of Autism. There is more and more public talk about these problems, these difficulties, and students at universities are often more exposed to these issues and more sympathetic towards them. During the learning process, they obtain certain skills to make an initial recognition. Okay, pedagogues are not trained to make a full diagnosis. This is something that psychologists and psychiatrists do. But they are capable to sense the signals, and they are often the first ones working at school, nursery, who may notice the symptoms. I also notice that in the university curriculum, there are more and more subjects and courses that I teach that are meant to introduce students to the issues of mental disorders and mental health issues among children and young people.
Coraz częściej prowadzę przedmioty, które dotyczą właśnie diagnozowania czy wprowadzenia studentów w ten obszar problemów chorób psychicznych dzieci i młodzieży, czy zaburzeń psychicznych dzieci i młodzieży.
Na pewno te działania, o których...
Although you will find many positive changes and social campaigns concerning social education and social inclusion in the area of mental health issues, I have a deep conviction that children and families of children with mental issues do not enjoy full social inclusion.
Nawet nie wyrażenie, tylko przeświadczenie.
Can you identify some areas that should be developed to support such inclusion?
Czy widzisz na tym polu jakieś trudności? Jakieś obszary, które powinny być rozwijane w tym zakresie?
Yes, for sure, but in a moment, because I wanted to add one more very important thing to the previous issue pertaining to non-governmental organizations and their input towards social education and social support. This third sector plays a very important role in promoting social awareness of mental health issues, but even more importantly, it often covers the gaps in the area of support and help for children with mental health issues and their families. Many non-governmental organizations carry out a range of support activities free of charge, starting with active therapy, occupational therapy, advisory, counseling services, therapy, logopedia, compensatory and correctional classes, which are a huge resource for this group that often needs more input, more care, more attention than is provided by public services. However, in the area of problems and barriers, I see the school as the area that leaves a little bit more to desire. There should be workshops and fortify skills of management and teachers in the area of awareness and empathy and recognizing the issues that may occur. Their skills should be strengthened in the area of support provision. Often the children who have issues, also problems of different types such as Asperger's syndrome or hyperactivity, I often notice that school is a place that may lead to a secondary trauma. Either the issue is noticed and recognized too late, or the problems that the child faces are often due to the restrictive nature and punitive measures, discipline and exclusion that take place at school. It can enhance the problems and issues instead of addressing them by stigmatizing through labeling a child as a child who is naughty, acting opportunistically against the adult, against the rules. Very often, children who have Asperger or who have, for example, tics or stutter, and who often experience laughing at them by their peers, exclusion by peers, especially if they have vocal tics or tics connected to certain movements. These children are often in a huge trap of their personal emotions. They want to be included, they want to be accepted by peers and teachers, like any other children.
Doświadczają często zachowań prześmiewczych ze strony rówieśników, zachowań wykluczających, jeżeli to są na przykład tiki głosowe albo tiki ruchowe, że te dzieci są często w ogromnej pułapce swoich emocji. One tak naprawdę im bardzo mocno, tak jak innym dzieciom, zależy na akceptacji ze strony zarówno rówieśników.
In the moment when they do not get the acceptance, they are not included, and even further, they receive the negative label as a misbehaving child. Their problems and their behavior that somehow is out of the boundaries, out of the norms, become stronger, become reinforced.
Te zachowania, w cudzysłowie problemowe, wychodzące poza normę, się nasilają, tak? I ja, tak jak słucham rodziców, którzy do mnie przychodzą...
When I listen to parents who describe the school's reaction to their child's problem, the interventions and the consequences that the school is taking towards the children or their parents, I have an impression that majority of these reactions is connected to lack of awareness and often with the lack of agency, being helpless due to lack of competences of the teacher and the lack of support for this teacher. I also have a huge understanding of teachers that cannot cope in these situations and who do not have enough support, for example, for the psychotherapy unit, from other specialists, maybe not only towards the support teacher, but also towards the main teacher. In my experience, the school, in difficult situations, most often offers an intervention such as individual tutoring, which is not necessarily the best solution. It can be sometimes helpful, but it should not be an automatic one, because it leads to exclusion, and these children should not be excluded, which demands a lot from the teacher, and he or she needs to be appropriately supported to be able to support the child and integrate the child with others.
Powinno się integrować, co wymaga na pewno bardzo dużej pracy świadomości i wsparcia takiego nauczyciela.
A ja zadam teraz pytanie, które kontynuujemy wątek integracji społecznej. Myśląc o integracji społecznej,
I have a question on social integration. In relation to diverse specialists who support child and family in order to aid integration, I'm interested in the area that you are involved with, the psychological support and therapy and health. There is, of course, also the area of school, healthcare and social care. Do you think that specialists from all these areas, the support world, are somehow integrated? Is there a system, or are these elements of the support system separate and disjointed?
te elementy świata pomocowego działają osobno i ta integracja nie jest wystarczająca. Myślę o współpracy szkoły.
I think about cooperation with school, healthcare, social care. For me, the most desired state would be the cooperation of all institutions and all elements in the system who would offer to the family and the individual in his family complex help and support, systemic help. And that would be the ultimate goal, to integrate all services to provide the best support. Maybe it is a digression, but this kind of good practice I came across in Germany during my MA studies. I do not want to generalize, but my families that I am in contact with, the families report that there is no cooperation between the institutions. They use different services, different sources of help, but there is no integration between them. They work independently from each other. So I understand that you say that the parent takes on this task of integrating, joining all the elements for the benefit of their child. So the parent makes arrangements to access services. There is no interprofessional cooperation. There are no services that would cooperate between each other, that would address issues that the individual is dealing with in a complex way. I do not know if there are no such instances. However, I know that for many parents, the challenge is the management of these issues. For parents of children with mental health disorders, mental issues, there are a lot of challenges to face. Very big responsibility, burden, stress, great time pressures to coordinate, to plan, to deliver, to bring, to collect, and to control all the elements that their child requires access to. Here psychotherapy, here occupational therapy, here workshops on social competences, visits to doctors and so on. It is a great ballast for the family to handle. And families that I come across will manage, but will have to manage it all themselves. Yes. Can you give me an example of change in this matter? The first that comes to your mind in order to improve the system of support and help for persons with disabilities and mental health issues, so that the system works better, is better coordinated and integrated. Would it have to be on the policy level for social politics and come from the government, or on lower levels as recommendations and practice sharing at the school, medical service level?
Czy taki niższy level, powiedzmy, jakichś rekomendacji dla szkół, dla służby zdrowia wystarczyłby? Jak myślisz, czy masz jakieś pomysły na takie rozwiązania kompleksowe?
In my view, the change must cut across all levels. In my opinion, we have the right legislation. Updates and improvements are ongoing. Two legislatives are the most important: the Act on Protection of Mental Health and the Act on Rehabilitation of Persons with Disabilities. The issue is an implementation of them, managing the implementation of systemic solutions. This requires better financing, which is often a huge barrier. So I will draw from German practice that I observed whilst in training there. I observed that there are special centers for all sorts of different groups of people that face challenges. So not only for persons with mental health issues, but also for elderly, people with disabilities, and so on. There are massive centers for support of these people and their families. These are towns in their own right inside the cities, where all types of support can be accessed depending on the individual needs of the person and their family. Such centers are usually dedicated to children, youth, adults, elderly. There are special schools, integrative schools, medical facilities, cultural activities, many different forms of help and support, all in one place. So these are all in one place and provide complex, integrated solutions that are much easier accessible and all in one place. This includes many forms of physiotherapy, ergotherapy, occupational therapy, psychotherapy, rehabilitation, support groups, hypotherapy, dogotherapy, contact and work with animals. There are also workshops for protected work, very much connected to the social environment. In one such center, I saw a massive laundry service providing washing for the Bundeswehr. In other, there were multi-hectare farms where vegetables were grown and where there was a place for local firms to buy lunches for their employees, who would go there every day to eat their lunch at lunch break. It was a massive boost for empowerment and strengthening of self-worth, but it was also a place providing employment, inclusive employment opportunities for all sorts of people.
Mieli ogromną kantynę, taką stołówkę, która stołowała najbliższe firmy, czyli tam firmy wykupywały pakiety dla swoich pracowników i oni tam mieli lunche. I to z jednej strony było to bardzo mocne wzmocnienie podmiotowości, a z drugiej strony też ogromne pole zatrudnienia, bo przecież tam pracowali rolnicy, nie tylko terapeuci. Pracowały osoby, które nie były pedagogami, ale które trochę zarządzały pracą tych osób niepełnosprawnych. Jednocześnie wsparcie dla...
There was also support for families. There were special sheltered accommodation units to allow more independence for young people who needed to move out from home. For example, a community of 10 youths could live next door in one complex and provide support to each other, with constant support from one professional worker available on site 24/7, keeping an eye on any problems that may occur. It was always anchored in local community, and the cooperation with local environment, with economy, with the city was very alive. They had everything available in one place, including medical care, rehabilitation, and the systemic support was perfectly tailored to one's needs, where some elements were chosen depending on needs of a person and the needs of their family. I have an impression that such places are slowly starting to emerge also in Poland. But the issues of funding are the greatest obstacle in making them a common norm.
Przedstawić te rozwiązanie, ale tam to trzeba sobie wyobrazić jako właśnie systemowe wsparcie zbudowane z określonych elementów, które dobiera się w zależności do potrzeb jednostki czy rodziny, która przychodzi. I mam wrażenie, że takie miejsca też w Polsce powstają, tylko że jeszcze tu potrzebujemy większego rozruchu i jednak dobudżetowania, to na pewno.
Bardzo Ci dziękuję za podanie.
Thank you so much for this example. And I will finish our conversation with the issue that you touched upon at the beginning, the student education. Here, we organized a course which will lead to creating one integrated path for social workers, pedagogues, special pedagogues, and nurses. We want to build an integral program for teaching about disability. Do you support such activities, such initiatives? What do you think about such initiatives?
Taki integralny program uczenia o niepełnosprawności. Czy popierasz tego typu inicjatywy? Co sądzisz o takich programach?
I think it is a very good idea because from such steps we can start the systemic approach and the integration and looking into the specific individual situations, a person who experiences difficulties and the family who is there and who supports this individual. We start to look into the situation globally, not that the doctor is from one area, nurse addresses another, social worker another. It is a good start to build the most efficient, adequate and complex network of support, which works together so that the person feels truly supported in all aspects, and that the help is not duplicated in one area, but covers a range of needs, and that the help does not exclude one or another, but can really strengthen that person. Because what a person experiences is a feeling of being lost and disoriented. And I'm not saying that the person in question is helpless. They usually become experts in coping after 15 years of service use. But at first they report feeling lost and lonely, being left on their own. And I feel that such network will make that person feel safe and well cared for. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you and goodbye.